Dear ladies and gentlemen, there will be moments in your life when the weight feels unbearable, when the silence from heaven is deafening, when your hands are tired and your heart is heavy. But let me remind you today of one truth: you were not built to break. You were built to keep going, no matter what. Life will not always ask your permission before it hits. Pain will not always give you notice, but that does not mean you stop. That does not mean you fold. That does not mean you give the enemy the satisfaction of watching you sit in your sorrow. You were made to rise, to fight, to move forward when everything inside you wants to retreat. There's a power that comes when you choose to keep going. Not when it's easy, not when it makes sense, but when it's costly, when it's lonely, when nobody's clapping for you. That's when something supernatural takes over. That's when heaven says, "Now I can trust you." You don't need to feel strong to be strong. Sometimes strength is simply saying, "I'm not quitting today," even with tears in your eyes, even with fear in your bones, because the future belongs to those who didn't give up when it was hard. So today, decide that no matter the storm, no matter the setback, no matter the silence, you will keep going, no matter what. 10 key points of the speech. Resilience is a decision, not a feeling. You won't always feel brave, but choosing to move forward despite fear is true courage. The most powerful step is often the next one. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just don't stop stepping. Pain doesn't disqualify you. It trains you. Your suffering is not a signal to stop, but a platform for purpose. God does his best work in silence. Just because you can't hear him doesn't mean he stopped speaking. Stay faithful. You grow when you don't give in. Strength isn't built when life is easy. It's built when you choose to endure. Every setback is a setup for a comeback. What looks like failure may be the foundation for your greatest testimony. Your fight has generational impact. Someone else's freedom is tied to your persistence. The enemy wants to wear you out before the breakthrough. That's why the resistance increases right before release. You don't need the crowd. You need consistency. The path to greatness is often paved in private obedience. Victory isn't for the fastest. It's for the faithful. The reward isn't just at the finish line. It's in refusing to quit along the way. Would you like me to expand any of these key points into full sections in the same style? Or would you like the SEO video package title, description, hashtags, etc.? For this speech as well, resilience isn't a personality trait reserved for the fearless. It's a conscious, defiant decision you make in the split second between the punch and your next breath. Feelings fluctuate. Courage today can morph into dread by nightfall, but decision is steel. It's the line you draw inside your spirit that says, "No matter what my heart screams, my feet keep moving." When intimidation knocks on the door, feelings beg you to freeze, decision drags you forward. When disappointment whispers, "Why try again?" a decision replies, "Watch me." Think of the moments you almost quit, the project no one believed in, the relationship hanging by a thread, the diagnosis that sucked the wind out of your lungs. In each scene there was a crossroads. One path was paved with emotion, raw, loud, and persuasive. The other was quieter, demanding a choice that felt unnatural. Keep going. Every hero story you admire was shaped in that intersection, not by adrenaline spikes, but by a stubborn commitment made while knees were shaking. Resilience looks unimpressive in real time. It's the alarm at 5 a.m. When motivation is comatose, it's returning the call you'd rather avoid. It's opening your Bible or your journal when Netflix and numbness are easier companions. Most breakthroughs are born in these ordinary acts of extraordinary decision. The world sees highlight reels. Heaven sees hinge moment. Tiny yeses that stack into unshakable resolve. And here's the paradox. The more you choose resilience against your emotions, the more your emotions begin to respect the choice. Feelings eventually follow the focus. Fear bows to repetition. Confidence germinates in the soil of consistency. Decision rewires the atmosphere inside you until what once felt impossible becomes your new baseline. So stop waiting for the surge of bravery to flood your veins. Stop grading your future by the mood of the morning. Plant your flag in the ground of intention and declare, my will, aligned with God's purpose, outranks my wavering emotions. I may tremble, I may doubt, I may cry, but I will not retreat. Because resilience is not about never feeling weak. It's about repeatedly deciding that weakness won't get the final word. Momentum is heaven's secret sauce. It's that invisible force that turns tiny pushes into tidal waves, and it always begins with the next deliberate step. No fanfare, no fireworks, just the gritty shuffle of a soul refusing to stall. We fixate on destination photos, the finish line ribbon, the published book, the debt-free statement, the healed relationship. Yet every grand finale you celebrate was carried there by an awkward, often unimpressive next step that looked much too small to matter. The enemy of progress isn't failure. It's paralysis. It's analysis so exhaustive that your feet fall asleep while your mind rehearses every potential disaster. Perfection whispers, wait until you can leap. But purpose counters, lift your foot anyway. The Red Sea didn't part for Israel until someone stepped into the water. The walls of Jericho stayed upright until weary feet circled them again. Miracles hitchhike on movement. Consider a hiker staring up at a mountain peak shrouded in clouds. From the valley floor, the summit looks impossible, but one stride forward alters the view, reveals a handhold, exposes a hidden switchback. The power wasn't stored in mile 20, it was unlocked in step 1. And then step 2, and again. What seemed immovable begins to yield, not because the mountain shrank, but because 10,000 ordinary strides turned giants into gravel. You keep waiting for immaculate conditions, a rested body, an inspired mind, a padded bank account, universal approval. But faith was never designed to operate under perfect weather. It is forged in fog, in drizzle, in headwinds. Each imperfect step testifies, my limitations can't muzzle my calling. And with every forward motion, your history of obedience grows longer than your list of excuses. Do muscles grow from thinking about push-ups? Does a seed bear fruit because it feels destined? Growth demands repetition. Repetition demands movement. Movement begins with the next knee bending, the next email sent, the next apology spoken, the next verse memorized, the next mile logged. One step may not look revolutionary, but compounded over weeks, months, seasons, it becomes the runway where destiny takes off. So lower the bar from flawless to faithful. Let messy progress outrank pristine intentions. If the step wobbles, take it anyway. If the voice quivers, speak it anyway. If the plan is half-baked, walk it out anyway. Because motion invites clarity. God can redirect a moving vessel far easier than a docked one gathering rust. Pause and you empower fear. Proceed and you employ grace. Your breakthrough might be one shaky stride away. Lift your foot. Place it down. Feel the ground give just enough to prove it's real. And go again. One imperfect, determined, holy step at a time. Pain isn't the punishment we think it is. It's not a divine rejection letter, not a cosmic red light telling you to stop dreaming or striving. Pain is training ground. A divine gym for your soul. You may not like its methods, but it's doing more for you than comfort ever could. Because the truth is, *******, never taught anyone endurance. ******, pain is a professor, and although its lectures are harsh, its lessons are holy. When life hits and the tears flow, we naturally ask, why me? But what if the better question is what is this preparing me for? Because if you trace the arc of every strong, influential, spiritually anchored person, you'll find a trail of pain behind their platform. What crushed others carved them, what broke others built them, and that didn't happen by accident. It happened because they chose to see pain not as a prison, but as a classroom. You don't gain the capacity to love deeply unless your heart has been cracked open and bled empathy. You don't develop the strength to lead unless you've been forced to rise when no one followed. You don't carry the wisdom to counsel unless you've been bruised by the same battles others are fighting. The people who inspire you didn't wake up resilient. They were stretched, refined, sharpened in the fire. Asterisk asterisk, they kept walking with a limp until the limp turned into a legacy. Asterisk asterisk, the problem is, we want the strength without the strain. We want the harvest without the hoeing. But muscle only grows when it's torn. Oil only flows when the olive is crushed. Diamonds only form under pressure. And the version of you that's equipped to carry your calling won't be developed in the safe places. It's birthed in the storm. So if you're in pain today, emotional, spiritual, relational, don't let it silence you. Let it strengthen you. Don't numb it, name it. Don't hide from it, harvest it, because pain is a revealer. It exposes your foundation. It reveals who and what your trust is anchored in. It tells you where healing still needs to happen. And most of all, it shows you that you can survive what once seemed unbearable. You're not weaker because you're hurting. You're stronger than you've ever been because you're still standing, still believing, still pressing forward. Pain doesn't mean the story is over. It means God is doing something deeper. He's not abandoning you. He's building you. And every scar will someday speak on your behalf, declaring, asterisk, this one didn't quit. This one let pain produce purpose. Asterisk, so don't despise your wounds. They are the birthplace of your wisdom, your strength, your testimony. You don't grow in spite of the pain. You grow asterisk asterisk because asterisk asterisk of it. And when the healing comes, you'll look back and thank the struggle for making you who you were always meant to become. Silence is not the absence of God. It's often the stage he stands on to develop your trust. We think that when heaven goes quiet, it means we've been forgotten. That somehow our prayers got lost in the system, or our cries weren't loud enough to reach the throne. But what if the silence isn't neglect? It's intentional. What if God is growing your faith not by speaking louder, but by inviting you to listen deeper? We're conditioned to believe that progress always comes with confirmation, that we'll know we're on the right path because we'll feel peace, hear a word, see a sign. But real growth asterisk asterisk root, deep, unshakable, lasting growth asterisk asterisk, is formed when you walk forward without applause, without clarity, and without a visible map. And yet you keep walking, because silence isn't a rejection, it's refinement. Think about it. The teacher is silent during the test, not because the student is forgotten, but because the teacher has already prepared them with enough to pass. And the silence you're experiencing right now might be God's way of saying, I've equipped you. Now I want you to trust what I've placed in you. It's in the silence where faith gets tested and trust gets real. Remember the story of Lazarus. Jesus didn't rush to prevent his death. He waited deliberately, quietly. While Mary and Martha were weeping and wondering where he was, Jesus was building a bigger miracle. They wanted healing, he planned resurrection, and in between their request and his arrival was a long, painful silence. But it wasn't inactivity, it was strategy. What looked like delay was divine preparation. God isn't always in the shout. Sometimes he's in the stillness, the whisper, the waiting, and in that waiting, he's watching. Asterisk, will you still pray when you don't hear back? Will you still worship when your heart is heavy? Will you still move when you feel alone? Asterisk, that's what reveals the depth of your devotion. You see, faith that only functions when God is loud isn't faith, it's convenience, but faith that thrives in the dark. That prays through the silence, that keeps showing up without signs. That kind of faith shakes hell. That kind of faith grows roots so deep that storms can't shake you, setbacks can't stop you, and silence can't kill you. So don't curse the silence, lean into it, sit with it, grow in it, let it sharpen your hearing, so that when God does speak, whether through his word, through a person, through your own spirit, you're ready to move with clarity and conviction. The silence is not where your story ends, it's where your faith gets forged. Because sometimes the quietest seasons produce the loudest breakthroughs. And while you're wondering where he went, he's preparing something greater than you asked for asterisk asterisk, something that requires silence before it shouts victory. Asterisk asterisk.